To continue the conversation now with Kristan Hawkins, the president of Students for Life. So, Kristan, how is the pro-life community responding to these latest bills?
Well, I mean, this is outrageous. This is heartless. This is barbaric. I think, in the pro-life community, there's been a lot of questions about, what does this mean? Where we're headed as a culture. I actually think that this is a good sign that abortion advocates are showing their hands. They are so afraid that Roe and Doe are going to fall and fall very soon, that they're going to Democrat states where they feel like they have a stronghold to pass this outrageous legislation to make sure abortion's legal in their state once Roe falls. I think it shows the power of our movement that they're so afraid. I also think this is significant because, a lot of times when we talk about abortion, you hear that, well, we just want it to be safe, legal, and rare mantra. Well, the Democrats in these states and the leaders, the pro-abortion leaders in these states, are proving once and for all what they're really about, and that's abortion whenever, even up until the moment of birth, and even after birth. I mean, that's crazy. The majority of Americans aren't even anywhere near that. That's an extremist position to hold. In fact, a poll we just had released showed that only 7% of millennials, the largest voting bloc in America, were in line with this thinking on abortion, all 9 months and taxpayer funded. So the good news is we're in the majority, they're not, and they're showing their hands. And now is the time to show all of America this is what the abortion movement's really about.
We've mentioned Virginia as well as New York. What's going on in other states, and are there any that you're watching more closely than others?
Well, we're watching closely. We were there in Rhode Island this week with our Students for Life leaders. There's a bill in Vermont. There's going to be an amendment coming up in Maryland. We're also watching. We were there last night in Denver, actually, in Colorado. There's several pieces of pro-abortion legislation. Washington State will be there fighting in Washington State. So we've got pro-life generation, Students for Life leaders all across the country gearing up. I think what you're seeing is, for so long, the pro-life movement has been winning when it comes to state houses. And there's been a lot written in the abortion industry about how they need to fight back, how they need to pass legislation ensuring abortion is legal once Roe falls. So I think we're starting to see this, that they're afraid of what's happening here in Washington. They're terrified that abortion is going to be part of the history books very soon. And I kind of see this as like their last gasp, their last fight that they have in them. And when doing so, they're showing themselves their true colors. And so now is a time for pro-lifers across the country, no matter what state you live in, to start talking about this, especially talking about this at your church and to everyone you know. This is exactly what the abortion conversation in America has come to.
We hear that some of the heartbeat bills and other laws could make their way to the U.S. Supreme Court, possibly leading to the overturn of Roe versus Wade. With what we're seeing happen recently, do you consider them setbacks?
I don't consider New York was definitely a huge setback. What was interesting about New York is, they were trying to pass this legislation for years. And it was actually because of this year's midterm election that they were actually able to pass this legislation. So I think this is a really important wake-up call for a lot of people, a lot of Christians who say, well, elections don't really matter, or it doesn't matter how I vote because nothing's ever going to change. Well, New York is the perfect example of what happens when abortion extremists are given control of a state legislature. And so I think that we've seen these setbacks. I mean, Virginia, the bill was dead on arrival. I think Rhode Island and Vermont and Maryland, we're going to have a big fight in front of us. But really, I think the challenge is activating the Christian community, activating the Christian church to stand up to say, absolutely not. We're against this. We didn't elect you to go to our state capital to advocate for abortions even after birth, because that's a murder.
All right. Kristan Hawkins, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.